Hello, this is Chetan Dalal, and in this episode I wish to explain with the help of a case study the difference between a forensic audit and a conventional audit. I'm sure many of you are aware what exactly a conventional auditor does. A conventional auditor usually relies on documentary evidence, and which is rightly so. But a forensic auditor has a vision which is something beyond what eyes can see. It is something far more comprehensive, which doesn't mean to say that the conventional auditor is not doing the right job, but a forensic auditor has got a much larger domain. And let me explain that to you with the help of a lovely billiard shot. What you see now on the screen is a billiards table with 3 balls on the table. Now, whenever we ask people as to what is the player trying to do, somebody will say the player is trying to pocket the red ball, somebody will say the player is trying to pocket the white ball, somebody may even go to the extent of saying that he's trying to pocket the white and the red ball. But that's about it. More than 90% of the people will stop at that. But have a look at the shot now. When you saw the shot, weren't you surprised that he was able to pocket all the 3 balls? So that is the difference between the vision of a conventional auditor, who will probably stop at 1 or 2 balls, and that of a forensic auditor who will go all across, take a 360-degree view and give a comprehensive picture, and which is required because a forensic audit is required by a court of law. That's the word forensic in the true sense of the word. Now let me illustrate this with an imaginary case study, but it is very authentic and very relevant to the subject that we are talking about. Consider a situation. What you see now on the screen is a person who is slumped, who has actually died. He's slumped on the desk. He was a bank manager. And if you see on one side of the table, there is a coffee cup with some steaming hot coffee, which is coming out of the cup. And just below the desk is a printer. And if you see the way his hand has been placed on the table, under his hand there is a paper which had a printed note stating that he had committed suicide because he had embezzled a large amount of money from the bank, and he had thought initially that he would be able to replenish that money. Unfortunately, he came to a conclusion that he could not, and therefore he stated in his letter that he decided to commit suicide by drinking the poisoned coffee. Now, friends, let us consider this, that this assignment of investigation was given to a conventional auditor. And let us also consider this as if this assignment was given to a forensic auditor. Let's see the finer differences between the two. As I said before, a conventional auditor will always depend and rely on what we call documentary evidence. So he'll get a certificate from a doctor to confirm that the man has died and that the cause of death was poison, which he will get. It's a written certificate. It's a piece of evidence, documentary evidence for him. Then he will go and get a certificate from a laboratory to confirm that that poison was indeed present in that coffee. Third, he will confirm with a technical expert on IT that the suicide note was printed on the printer which was placed below the desk. And fourth, he will send that piece of paper to a fingerprint expert, again a forensic expert of some kind, to confirm which fingerprints were there. Now, all these pieces of evidence will be collected by him. Let's presume that the doctor confirms that this man died because of coffee, poison. Let's also confirm that this poison was there indeed in that coffee as certified by the laboratory. Let us confirm that the IT expert also confirmed that the paper was printed from that printer. And let us confirm that the fingerprints, as you now see on the screen, these were the fingerprints which belonged to the man who died, and there were no other fingerprints either on the front or the back from anybody else. So every piece of evidence that you see now that has been presented belongs to the theory that this person committed suicide. So an auditor would not be wrong if he said and came to a conclusion that this was a case of suicide. Now friends, so far so good. But let's take the case of a forensic auditor. As I said, his vision goes beyond what eyes can actually see. So he applies not only the documentary evidence, which is of course required. A forensic auditor also relies on documentary evidence, but he goes a point beyond. He examines the reliability of that documentary evidence. In a very clear-cut thinking, logical application of mind, he came to a conclusion that this was not suicide. At the very least, it was abetment of suicide with somebody else or murder. And how did he come to know? Friends, just apply this piece of logic. Let's presume that this is the printer, and I want to pick up a piece of paper from the printer. Can I pick it up without a single finger touching the backside of the paper? Impossible. Once again, have a look at the fingerprints that you saw on that piece of paper as certified by the fingerprint expert. They were only on the front side, no other fingerprint in the front nor at the back, which meant that this piece of paper couldn't have been picked up by the bank manager. Somebody else may have picked up, somebody else who had gloves on his hand, and that person placed the paper underneath his hand so that his fingerprints would come in the manner that was seen and examined by the forensic expert. And therefore, this case was deemed and concluded to be a suicide. So friends, this forensic auditor applied his mind, his logic, to the evidence, to the documentary information given by all experts. That became what we call a forensic analysis or a forensic audit. So as you saw in this case study, just by the simple act of picking up a piece of paper from a printer, a forensic auditor applied a different kind of a vision, a three-dimensional vision, if you can say so, which makes that little difference between a forensic auditor and a conventional auditor. Both are good in their own places, but because a forensic audit requires the evaluation by a jury, by a court of law, the degree of sophistication, the degree of reach is much greater. And that, my friends, is the difference between forensic audit and a conventional audit.